No, the Pelicans aren't having a fire sale, especially with a rejuvenated Zion Williamson. But they do have options if the season doesn't go how they want. It's the Tuesday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Tuesday. It's a game day for your Pelicans. Oh, that feels good to say. They are taking on the Houston Rockets in Birmingham. We'll have more on that game in the third segment of today's show. But we're going to do a little trade talk for the first two segments here because Pelicans aren't having a fire sale. No, whatever you're seeing about the Pelicans' best players getting traded away is not a thing. But the fact that people think they can get a lot for those players is actually an important and encouraging thing for New Orleans. So we're going to cover it all, including some fake trades in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the number one Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everyday. It means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And also, you can watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every single weekday at 10:30 a.m. and basically everywhere. So let's just dive into this one. I want to kind of get into something that I saw over at BleacherReport.com, written by Andy Bailey, who I've kind of known for a little while here, and I like his work. But one of the trades, whoa, what is going on here? I want to start with this. You probably feel better about the Pelicans than you did at the start of preseason, at the start of media day. Seeing how good Zion Williamson physically looks feels like that is a big-time game changer for the New Orleans Pelicans. We even talked about it in yesterday's show. How do you keep him healthy? How do you keep him like that all season long? And there's ways to do it. There's ways to load distribute Zion Williamson, though not load management, so that he is still playing. And so this team, with some of the other talent that they have, Trey Murphy, Jordan Poole, they really like their rookies in Jeremiah Fears and Derrick Queen whenever he's going to be playing. They think Saddiq Bey is going to be a key depth piece. You're getting Herb Jones back. Jose Alvarado is still Jose Alvarado. This team has a lot of internal belief in themselves. They feel this team will be competitive every single night. There were times last season that we saw the Pelicans step out on the court and we were like, yeah, this team doesn't have it, or this team's not going to bring it, and they're just not going to be competitive and they're going to get blown out. And lo and behold, that's what happened. Like, we absolutely have seen that before. But this team feels, no matter who's healthy, who's not, that they're going to step on the court and they are going to be competitive and they are going to have a chance to win that basketball game. Does that mean they will make the playoffs? Not necessarily. Joe Dumars has even admitted that in some of his media availability. So maybe they miss it, but they feel they'll at least be close or right in every game. You can be close in every single game and still lose every single game, but it doesn't mean you were like a totally far away. So they feel that they're going to be right in the midst of everything. And so that means we're not having a fire sale here in New Orleans. There's no fire sale of players. Just because national media thinks this team will be bad doesn't mean they're going to actually be bad, or doesn't mean that they think internally that they're going to be bad. It's one thing for national media to project how they feel about the team. They should trade people. They should do this because this team isn't close. They should move Zion Williamson. They should trade Trey Murphy. They should trade Herb Jones, and they should go through a rebuild. Look, there's valid reasoning for that. I've even said that on the show before. Right? But what I say, what other pundits in national media say, doesn't necessarily matter. It's about what the team thinks. And they think they're going to be competitive. And so if they think they're going to be competitive, it doesn't mean that they're going to do anything that makes them less competitive. It also means, hopefully, that they don't do a dramatic win now move here. And that gets into kind of the first of the fake trades that we're seeing that I think is kind of interesting here. In his article for Bleacher Report, one trade every team would make if the NBA's trade deadline was today. So if the trade deadline got moved up to right before the start of the regular season, what's a trade every team would make right now? And Andy, I'm sorry, this one's pretty rough here in my opinion. The Pelicans trade is Herb Jones, Jeremiah Fears, Micah Peavy, and a 2031 first-round pick for Derrick White. And this is so that you could put in, a not elite guard, but stable, very good veteran defensive guard who can also be a go-to scorer alongside Zion Williamson. It's a top trio of Williamson, he says. Derrick White and Trey Murphy would be loaded with talent and versatility. This is a terrible trade. The Celtics would jump on this in a second, let alone that it also reduces their salary by $5.4 million. So this puts the Pelicans into the luxury tax, by the way. When we talk trades, you need to factor in that the team's not going to pay the luxury tax, at least not this year. Who knows in the future? So any deal needs to keep them below the luxury tax line. So this is a non-starter and makes no sense for New Orleans. Regardless of where you fall on the Herb Jones versus Derrick White debate, Derrick White's good. This is an all-star level guard who's won a title with them, who's an elite difference maker, but he's also older than Herb Jones. He makes more money than Herb Jones. It's not just Herb Jones for Derrick White. It's Herb Jones, a future first-round pick, Jeremiah Fears, and Micah Peavy. Based on just the pick and Fears, right? That's the 7th overall pick and a future first. So that's 2 first-round picks there. Peavy's a throwaway. Don't worry about that right now in this deal. And then Herb Jones, who everyone is trying to trade for Herb Jones, and it's been reported that New Orleans would only take, potentially even entertain it if it included 3 first-round picks. So you're essentially saying here 5 first-round picks for Derrick White. Even if the Pelicans are going to make a short-sighted win-now move, they're not going to make something this bad. This is a ridiculous trade. This is a ridiculous kind of trade here, in my opinion. He goes on to say it would be nice. This trade would be a nice follow-up to find another, after another trade that breaks down DeJounte Murray's salary into a couple of role players. I mean, if you think someone like Fears and Peavy are going to play big roles for you, you don't need to trade them away, right? And then trade somebody else away and include additional draft capital with DeJounte Murray to bring in more depth, to just keep the depth that you have. The way I view this team is if they are going to make a move, it might involve trading DeJounte Murray for depth, but I don't see them doing anything dramatic. I think, at least not early on, maybe at the trade deadline, and more on that in the next segment here. I think this is a team that wants to see what they have. I think they really believe in Zion Williamson, deeply believe in Zion Williamson, frankly. Otherwise, they would have traded him by now. We'd heard the reported mandates to trade Zion, and then Dumars didn't want to do that. I don't know if Dumars came in with any mandates or not, but I think he came in ready to evaluate this team, met with Zion Williamson, really liked Zion Williamson, and believed in what Zion Williamson can do. And we'll get into Zion Williamson in the next segment here. This is a team that believes in themselves, so they're not going to do anything dramatic, especially in the beginning part of the year. And this is a hypothetical article, so don't worry about that too much. But that's kind of where things stand with this roster. They could trade Murray because he's going to return in January, but I also think Murray strikes me as a Joe Dumars kind of player. And from a culture standpoint, I do like that is someone who went through a lot of adversity last year and is putting himself into, in a position to succeed this year. And the Pelicans, who have struggled dealing with adversity in the past, could really use a guy that's gone through some of that recently to serve as a guide. Now, I don't wish that Murray went through adversity, but I think that kind of perspective that he takes, the way he spoke at Media Day was really telling and really eye-opening. I think that's the type of player that you look at him here and it's like, oh, he is a valuable veteran on this team just for a culture, locker room kind of standpoint. However, while that's good, you got to win games. And so I don't think they would hesitate to move him if the right trade came along, but I also don't think they're going to really want to include tons of future draft capital in any sort of deal like that, given that they just gave up next year's future first round pick. And you don't want to start getting into that like war chest, which has been dwindled from the Anthony Davis trade and Drew Holiday trades too much, right? That's basically done. You're not going to kind of trade away too much future stuff until you kind of see where this team goes. And this speaks to something that I've talked a lot about. The Pelicans are kind of in the middle of two timelines right now, but they're going to eventually need to decide. This article, though, really gives them options in a very positive way if things go south. I want to look at the hypothetical trade of Zion Williamson and somebody else on this team that's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season's basically here. NFL is going on right now, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. All you got to do, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it's going to give you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays for a bigger playout. You can try the player props, which are always fun here too. You can even get in on the live action during games. The lines are always being updated even if you miss the start of the event. So it just makes watching sports a little bit more exciting when you've got something riding on the action. So don't wait anymore, especially with this deal. FanDuel has been a partner of Locked On for a really long time. $300 in bonus bets might be the best offer I've actually ever seen with it. So go to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and you can get started. And if your first $5 bet wins, that's $300 in bonus bets to use across the app over at FanDuel.com. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you're still listening from Australia as well. Got a ton of y'all coming in. That was a lot of fun. And if you only listen one day a week, it's okay too. I just appreciate you making Locked On Pelicans part of your day. So for your second listen, it's Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson. After I record this, I'm going to go see him and hang out with him, actually. I'm excited about that. He's making sense of everything black and gold. The defense just looking atrocious to the Patriots on Sunday. What is going on there? Go make Locked On Saints your second listen today. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Pelicans aren't having a fire sale right now, at the very least. But what happens if this season goes south? What happens if this season goes south and just doesn't go the way that New Orleans wants? The Pelicans have options, and that's important. They're going to need to choose a path. They are kind of at like a forking path right now here, right? It's like out of a Robert Frost poem and everything. What direction are they going to go? And we don't know yet, right? It might just depend on the start of the season. And this is something that might go up until the NBA's trade deadline here. I do think they're in a very good position to pivot should they want to. And I think that is a really important thing here. So, what do these trades look like? You know, this is, again, one trade every team would make if today was the trade deadline, let's say. There are two trades, one for Zion Williamson and one for Trey Murphy that I find very, very interesting here. And I want to start with the one for the Miami Heat, which is them trading for Zion Williamson. And they send over Terry Rozier, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparas Yakichonis, a 2026 first-round pick, a 2028 first-round pick, a top 5 protected 2030 first-round pick, and a 2032 lottery-protected first-round pick for Zion Williamson. So that is 4 first-round picks for Zion Williamson, plus Yakichonis, who was just a first-round pick. So let's call it 5 first-round picks for Zion Williamson, Jaquez, and Rozier to kind of make the salaries work and give some players that can do something right now. This is a haul. This is a huge haul for Zion Williamson. If for whatever reason the Pelican season isn't working out, they can reload rather quickly. What I find interesting about this trade for Zion Williamson, and I'm not saying you should do this, even if this was on the table right now, I don't think I'd pull the trigger on this. The team before the Miami Heat, the Memphis Grizzlies in this article, is them trading Ja Morant for Terry Rozier, Jaquez, Yakichonis, and 2 first-round picks. So Andy Bailey has the Pelicans getting more for Zion Williamson than Ja Morant, even though Zion's got more injury concerns, I think, overall than Morant. But here's the thing, and this is what Bailey says. When he's healthy, he being Zion, there's only a handful of players in the world who make a bigger impact than Zion on offense. And that's why the haul on this one is bigger than the Ja Morant deal. I think Zion's got people's eyes opened. Truthfully, from talking to people around the league, I'm not saying it's Zion putting the league on notice, but I think people are like, oh, whoa. They think he figured it out. There are people feeling really, really good about where Zion Williamson is right now, even scared from Zion Williamson right now. This is important for New Orleans. One healthy season of Zion is not going to be enough to fully get rid of all of the concerns about it. We'll get rid of a bunch, but not all of them. Can he do it for multiple seasons in the row? We've seen glimpses of him being healthy, playing well, and then the team being good. And you're even seeing the national media narrative around Zion Williamson start to change a little bit. People really are starting to believe in him as a player this season and being like, yeah, he looks straight up good. And that is highly encouraging for what New Orleans, wants to do and what they can do this season here. So you see that already happening. And so Zion has put the league on notice a little bit, or at least people are starting to buy in more so than I think ever before. And that's great to see here because look, when the Pelicans hit that crossroads, they are going to need to make some tough decisions about what it is. It can't just be like a bad team this year and keep everyone and just run it back next season. This is kind of the final year to figure out if this works or not. And so it might mean they need to pivot and trade Zion Williamson. If you can get back 4 first-round picks plus Yakichonis, who's young, you're going to feel pretty good about the future of this team here, I think. Similarly, there's a trade here for the Indiana Pacers that involves Trey Murphy. And that deal is Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, a 2030 first-round pick, and a 2032 top 5 protected first-round pick for Trey. And Andy Bailey even says the Pelicans probably need more draft capital in this deal. And I agree that they do. But Mathurin, is a former first-round pick who at times in the NBA Finals looked like he might be the best player on the court. Obi Toppin is a great role player. Would love to have him on this team as a guy off of the bench, spot starter here and there. And a couple of first-round picks, call it 3. That's a pretty good package, I think, for Trey. I'm not doing any of these deals because I really want to see this team play, and I'm very intrigued by where this team could go here. And I think even if they need to pivot, at the trade deadline because the season hasn't gone well, they're going to trade Zion more so than they would trade Trey Murphy. I think Trey Murphy and Herb Jones are pretty untradeable for this team in the current moment and likely this season. And probably even just going forward. Zion, a little bit less so. But it gives the Pelicans options. The worst spot that they could have been in is the season has not gone the way they want. It's February, it's around the trade deadline, and none of their players have value, and nobody is really interested in them or want them. And that's, maybe the worst spot that they could be in, where you're not going to kind of get anything good for this season because you don't have next year's future first-round pick. But here, you could reload pretty quickly, and it maybe takes the sting out of being bad and not having your own pick going into this draft lottery where the odds are good that in a stacked draft, you could do something here. You could get someone really good, even if it doesn't end up being the top 1 or 2 picks. So the Pelicans, I think, are in a good position for when they need to make a decision on what the season looks like. They could pivot and just kind of not blow it up. It's never going to be a fire sale right now, but they could make some moves that give them future draft capital. They could also pivot and try maybe move Murray in another future first-round pick for guys that are going to help them win now. And I think they're in a really good position to decide that when the time is appropriate. It's not appropriate to do it now. They don't need to do any of this now. That's something that they're going to need to do in the future here, but they're going to be well positioned to do that. And even this article, and again, I actually really like Andy Bailey and think his insight is very good, minus that trade of Herb Jones and Derrick White. Come on, man. But everything else here makes sense to me, given how things have gone and where they could go. And I do think from talking to other, NBA people working for teams around the league, they're kind of buying in on Zion here. And that's fun. That makes me feel good. Coming up next, let me know what you think about any of these trades. I hate the one for Derrick White, but say you were like forced to trade Zion Williamson. Do you like that Heat deal? What about the one for Trey Murphy? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Coming up next, it's a game day for the Pelicans. Let's quickly look at them playing Houston. We got broadcast info too. All of that coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what's in those accounts. So whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you put off organizing your finances, Monarch's for you. It's going to do all the heavy lifting. You link your account in minutes. You see clear data visuals. You can see what you're spending things on. You just finally feel in control over your money, and you don't have to touch a spreadsheet. So you can realize you're not saving as much as you thought. You're not going to buy the home as quick as you want to. You could start putting more money aside. Are you maximizing 401k matches? Things like that. And if you're managing your finances with a partner or even a financial advisor, this helps you keep a clear view of your financial health week to week, long term, so you all stay on the same page. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. So whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love the Peloton IQ system. It offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, which I think is massive. Every rep is going to be safer and smarter. If you're new to weightlifting, you're intimidated, you don't know where to begin, having something track your reps so you don't hurt yourself is actually really great. So let yourself run, lift, push forward, and even flex. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast. We've got over 12,000 subscribers on YouTube. We are on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every single weekday at 10:30 a.m. and wherever you get your podcast. Make Locked On Fantasy Basketball your second listen today. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So as we start to wrap up the show here, a couple of things that I want to dive into for the New Orleans Pelicans, and that is, they're giving out, so it's a game day, right? How are you going to watch the game preseason? All of that here. Good news is this one's going to be on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, and I think that's important, right? The Pelicans kind of announced all of their broadcast information today where 80 games are going to be on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network here in New Orleans and in the region locally. You also have Pelicans Plus as an option to be able to watch these games too. And I think that's going to be great. And the opener, by the way, is going to be on Fox 8. So if you don't have an antenna, if you don't have Pelicans Plus, or you're just a little bit overall confused about where to find the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, you're going to be able to find it the opening game Wednesday, October 22nd. That's next week, y'all, on Fox 8. So the great news here is Joel Myers, Antonio Daniels are back. You're also going to have Gus Kattengill handling a ton of the radio stuff for New Orleans, too. You've got Todd Graffinini and John DeShazer still on the call as well. The pre- and post-game show is going to be Aaron Summers and Wes Johnson. It's great. You've got Andrew Lopez, friend of the show here, also on the TV broadcast as a sideline reporter. Look, the games are going to be available. It's also going to be on DirecTV this year, too. That's great. Means at sports bars and places like that have DirecTV, you're going to be able to watch the game. So they put out an announcement. You can go find the local over-the-air channel. You can get an antenna to watch it that way. It's also going to be on WWL Radio Odyssey. That's going to be there for you as well. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be widely accessible for the Pelicans to be able to get, their fans all of the games here. For the game tonight, as we're wrapping up the show really quickly here, big thing is, we're seeing them play an NBA team. I think that's really important. I want to see how they look against an NBA team, let alone the Houston Rockets, who have really high hopes this season for their year. They're going to come in and they're making the most of kind of every single preseason rep, every single preseason game. I'm excited to see Herb Jones on the court. Seemed fine. He was doing everything you wanted him to do at the Back to Basketball event. Same for Jose Alvarado. Everyone other than basically Derrick White kind of looking pretty healthy here. But I want to see Zion Williamson against NBA competition. I want to see, does Jeremiah Fears have that same downhill attacking style that's going to work against NBA competition? Is he going to be able to get into the paint at will? And how do NBA shot blockers kind of impact him in that regard? All of that, I think, is going to be much more telling. I was happy with the Australia games, seeing them play. They looked good. This is going to be a truer test to kind of see where this team is. Going up against an NBA level defense, particularly starters on starters, is what I'm going to be watching for in this game. How does Jordan Poole fit in with everybody? How does, what's exactly going to be the role for Trey Murphy, and how are they going to kind of manage some of the minutes here? I think we'll start to get a much better picture of what this Pelicans rotation is going to look like. There's also the center battle. I think it should be Misi personally. It might be Looney who starts. They're both going to have big roles this season for the team, so keep that in mind too. But I wonder if now we'll start to see a more expanded role for Misi or Looney, and who does Willie Green trust a little bit more. So I'm excited for this game. 7 p.m. in Birmingham. Watch it on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. The next game on Sunday is going to be streamed on Pelicans.com for free, so you can watch it that way. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be back with y'all tomorrow.